but I'm going to start first with our board. We have our president with us, President Dr. Hazen, and I believe online one of our trustees, Trustee Mike Wax, are here this evening. And we're also joined by several of our district office staff who, also want to hear so much of your feedback, and Executive Director Larry Hagquist and our Chief of Human Resources, Chief Rogerman, are here with us as well. So thank you for that. Leading us this evening, we have our Director of Educational Technology, who is managing the Zoom for us, Director Binder. But then you're going to be hearing a lot from our Director of Technology, Director Louis Algazi. And so it's my pleasure to turn you over to him at this time. So thank you, Mr. Algazi.
Thank you. Okay, well, I don't have a ton, but like she said, we're here to get your feedback on the newly adopted board policy and administrative regulation, as well as the EdTech plan, which is going to talk a little about AI. Go ahead. For those of you, since there's not a huge group today, for those of you who are not sure, these are not the official definitions, but I really wanted to showcase the difference between AI and generative AI. So these is kind of the terms. I've heard it somewhere, or I made it up. I don't know, one of the two. Responsive is where you ask AI a question, it responds to you. Predictive is stuff like spell checkers, where it thinks it knows what you're going to type. And then generative, where it generates content. And just to be honest, a lot of the board policy, I know the administrative regulation, we didn't differentiate between the different types. So I think we have to go back and define anywhere it says AI, turn it into generative AI, because that's really what we're talking. In my mind, that's what I'm talking about here. Because the other two have been around and are kind of more accepted. But if the topic comes up, we can definitely talk about the other types. I wanted to showcase some of the challenges that we are facing, PGSD is facing with AI, generative AI. Most of the tools we found do not allow people under 13 to utilize them. So that means if your son or daughter is at home and using AI at home and they're under 13, I'd recommend you read the terms of service and whether they should be using it or not. Same thing with students or people under 18, they have to have parental consent. So realistically, they shouldn't be using it if they're under 18 without you knowing. There's a couple regulations that we have to follow, COPA, FERPA, and ideally HIPAA. And that really talks to how well does the organization or the tool protect my data as a user. So is it protecting? Is it not letting that get out to other people, to their partners, all that kind of stuff? So that's another thing we look at. And the last thing we look at is kind of security. Does the tool, for those of you, the large language model, use the information I type in to train its tool, to help the tool get better? That's another thing we're looking at. If it's one of those things, it's not kind of the end of the world if they do, but we just got to be more careful about what we put into the tool. And of course, you don't want to put PII into the tool, personally identifiable information, stuff like that. Next. Just a quick summary of our adopted policies. We have, like I said, we have a board policy and administrative regulation. The board policy is pretty shallow, while the administrative regulation is a lot deeper. And it talks to how easy it is to change. The board policy, we can only change twice a year. The administrative regulation, we can pretty much change anytime we want. And as a lot of people know, the industry is changing relatively quickly. So these are the highlights. The teacher may allow any student over 13 only with parental consent. The intention is they have to give permission to use AI either in the class-wide or just on specific assignments. The students, obvious same thing, over 13 can use it. They must receive permissions from the teacher to utilize it on a specific assignment or class-wide, and they're supposed to disclose the use of it. if they're using AI, ideally, they let the teacher know that they used it rather than handing it in as some of their work. Staff, at this point, we're giving full access. They're adults, obviously, most of them are over 18, and we're encouraging them. We're doing our best to train them and teach them how to use it. Some of them are more open to it than others, but that's okay. Some of the precautions we have to take is hallucinations. Everyone know what hallucinations are? No. Okay, so for example, I have a perfect example of a hallucination where I needed to get some dog food, and I asked, I think it was Gemini, what are the hours of PetSmart at Del Monte Center? And if everyone knows, Petco's at Del Monte Center, and PetSmart is at Sand City. So but it told me an answer, right? So it told me the hours. I don't know which one it picked up from, but it said PetSmart at Del Monte Center is open from this hour to this hour, which is wrong because it's not at Del Monte Center. So that's a hallucination that the AI assumes it's correct. Data privacy, like I talked about, you don't want to put anything into AI, any personally and identifiable information, any private information, whether they're using it to train their models or not. Security, I talked about, same thing. And actually, AI has a lot of bias, which I can't talk to a ton right now, but I've read several articles on how it can be biased. And next. So if anyone hasn't seen the policy or the administrative regulation, you can open your phone and use the QR codes to get to them if you're interested. I'll give you guys a couple minutes to do that. No one's really taking out their phone. One.
Check it works.
Okay, good. My QR codes are correct. And then the EdTech plan. Next slide. The EdTech plan is something we are revamping. Whoops, that's okay. Just switch to there we go. The EdTech plan is something we are revamping this year. This current one ended in 2025, and the current one, go back to the EdTech plan. We have an infographic and the full plan. The current one really only talks about how we're spending Measure A funds, what projects we're working on, what systems we're supporting. But with this version, we're talking a lot about including, what's my term, guidelines and best practices for technology usage in the classroom. So kind of like, do you want to talk to this real quick, Matt?
Sure. So as most of you know, our current plan is essentially end of life. And what we are now including as a part of our revision process is to outline or essentially construct a set of more informative guidelines for classroom instruction and practice that includes referencing recommendations on screen time, use of AI and other tools that are out there that have since emerged from when this plan was first crafted, and move it from basically a project plan to a more of a guide for our educators with referencing AI. Obviously, that's going to be a key component.
It's not everything, but it's a big part of it.
Yeah.
Screen time and AI, and even like online curriculum versus paper curriculum.
Yeah, which goes towards like the best practices recommendations.
Right.
Yeah.
And the way we manage this is using Securely, which is our safety and device management solution, which allows teachers to track students, what they're seeing on their screen, what websites they're allowed to get to, what they're not, all that kind of stuff.
The key component to the current planning process for the revised plan is going to be obviously gathering input from our teachers, our more tech savvy teachers, to be more specific, because they are already on the leading edge of using many of these tools in their classrooms. Not necessarily AI, but in terms of other online digital platforms. So
Next slide. So the next steps are, there we go. We have to kind of develop some, based on your feedback, really, and the feedback of the survey tonight, is develop some teacher and either develop or maybe hire someone to do teacher and staff training. Maybe same thing with student training. Just determine if we have those skills to speak, to train effectively to the students, like not just how to use the tool, but when it's appropriate to use the tool and when it's not. So that's kind of the direction we're taking. And as well as keeping up with the quickly evolving landscape. I know, just as a few examples of this, maybe a year or two ago, they came out with AI pins. Want to remember those? There was something, a box you put on your, hang on your shirt, and you could ask it questions and it would respond to you. And AI would respond to you and answer your questions. And it had a little camera and it could see what's going on. AI glasses, which are out now and they're just quickly evolving, which I think we included with the cell phone policy, and basically trying to prevent them from during class time, because at least in the high school, I think in all the schools, they hang their cell phones at the door before they go into class. So same thing, it would have to be with the AI glasses as well.
yeah, the interpretation right now is that they are considered a student device, like a cell phone. So they are not to be used in the classroom. Teachers were interested in knowing whether or not this would impact students with prescriptions, and how would they be able to tell the differences between prescription set of glasses and AI glasses. Right now, you can still pretty much tell that there is a difference. There's either an LED light on, or you can actually see a lens in the frame. There's some physical indicators of whether or not it's a set of AI glasses versus just a regular prescription.
And so what we're really here for is the last question mark is get your feedback on what else we should be doing. And the next slide shows a QR code to a survey with 6 questions on it. So it should be pretty easy. Feel free to do that now. I'm going to put out an announcement tomorrow with a lot of these links, including a link to the survey if you wanted to fill out tomorrow or later on, hopefully tomorrow. And if anyone wants to speak now, you can come up to the podium and ask questions or speak or say yay or nay, or just give your opinion of whether it should be allowed for students or staff or anything like that. And that was all I had.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, well, thanks for that. My name's Jeremy Goldbergen. I'm a resident PG. I have 2 kids in the district. I'm also, everything okay?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm also a professor at Stanford down at the Marine Station. So I teach products of K through 12 at the university level. I feel like the report card on education technology over the last decade's not been great. I mean, grades are down, anxiety's up, depression's up. I just wonder, it's nice to see age limits in the policy. So I certainly something that I'd be supportive of. But I wonder if the question has ever been asked, should we be doing this at all at K through 12? And I feel like more caution and more limits might be a good thing. And I feel like students and kids these days need more human interaction and less screen interaction. So yeah, there might be some great tools available, like the Conmigo. I've seen that tool. It seems great, right? But also this kid is going to grow up learning math from a computer. Is that a good thing ultimately? I feel like we need to reinforce the human connections that appear to have been degraded recently. And I think to make the world a better place, we got to reinforce the things that make our human societies work well.
Probably one of the things I didn't mention is our current policy is to block everything as much as possible. I mean, everything keeps changing. We keep adding blocks. But that's really why we're here is if we get a big group of people who say we got to open it up to over 13-year-old kids or 13 and over, then we have to relook at that policy kind of thing. Or if everyone says no, keep blocking it, then we'll probably keep going down that road. Go ahead. Oh, one more.
I'm not the last. Good evening. I'm Roby Hyde. I'm the coach of the Pacific Grove High School robotics team, the Breakerbots, and I've been that coach for the last 12 years. I also work in an AI software development company that is at the forefront of data automation. And I've given presentations on how to effectively use generative AI at Pacific Grove High School, as well as Carmel High School, and at robotics mentor conferences. And I'd like to basically congratulate you guys on adopting such a thoughtful and forward-looking policy. I think policy 0441 is well balanced in that it promotes innovation while at the same time emphasizing things like security and privacy and teachers' judgment. So I think you did a great job with the policy itself. My encouragement tonight, though, is to take the next step beyond that policy, and that is to ensure that every student has access to these AI tools the policy talks about. We are a Google for Education district, and that makes sure that the students have access to a great suite of software provided by Google, but it does not include Google's own AI, Gemini. When the kids try to log in to Gemini using their PGUSD accounts, they're currently blocked, right? So the students are denied access to the tools that we want to teach them how to use. And most of the best AI platforms out there, the ones that are defining the future of these kids, for these kids, they are, all behind a monthly paywall. And so this ends up creating another type of digital divide, right? Not one defined by who has access to Wi-Fi or who has access to laptops, but who can afford the monthly subscription to the very technology that is changing the way education is being delivered. So we have that problem. And to prepare our students for the future, I think they need guided, equitable access to these AI tools, one with age-appropriate controls, but also within the framework of Policy 0441. Many districts and states are partnering with AI providers like Google, Anthropic, Meta, and OpenAI to allow the students to access their AI tooling at little cost. And I would encourage PGUSD to explore partnerships with similar AI providers to ensure that all students, regardless of the backgrounds, can learn to use AI responsibly and creatively under the supervision of our teachers. I think you've laid a great foundation with Policy 0441, and I'd like to build on top of that. I think the educational tech plan should make sure that students have access to the tools that we're preparing them to use. And with that, I'd just simply like to thank you for your leadership and for making sure that PGUSD stays ahead of the curve. Thank you.
Thank you. It looks like we had one kind of for and one against.
If there's anybody online who'd like to contribute,
Thank you, Matt.
feel free to raise the hand.
While we're waiting to see if anyone online has something to say, I just want to add, we are currently working on a policy, it's an AR, that really kind of speaks to and provide provides guidelines for our teachers, at each grade level on, what the expectation would be and how much, specifically maybe focus a little bit more on screen time is really, how we're focusing the language there. But I think what we're hearing, on both, from both of our speakers this evening is very much along the lines. I think that's what we are hearing from family members, from our staff, through conversations that we have been ongoing, I would say, definitely within the past 2 years, but really along the lines of that we want to be sure that we're not just necessarily, we know that this AI is out there and it's a wonderful tool, but we're not just using it for the sake of using it, that we're truly being thoughtful and really encouraging our teachers to think about it each time they design a lesson plan, would the use of technology in this particular case make that lesson better, more engaging, or would it actually in certain circumstances be better without it, right? So I think just really allowing for our teachers to utilize their expertise as well and professionalism within the parameters that we're determining, through our technology plan and through our policies, to utilize their expertise, their professionalism on determining when, technology can actually be utilized to, make something better. Right. So I think, it's not about a sort of a flat, slate of, this is where we're applying it to everything. It really is intended to be thoughtful. And, I know Director Binder has been very heavily involved in, currently coming up with that with input from our staff and, from our, tech instructors at each school site. And so more to come on that. Just wanted to share. That's a little of what we're doing.
Thank you. Unless there's any more comments, I think I'm just going to close this. I wish board meetings were like this, but
I'll take that. Should I comment now? Just
if you want to. 3-minute comment, right?
46 minutes.
Yeah.
Speaking more here from my role as a parent, but the thing, I think there's opportunity and concerns regarding any new technology that comes out. And the thing that I worry the most about are some of the potential misuses. And one of the things I think about too is how do we, as a pedagogy, teach in ways that can harness AI potentially, but also most importantly, not allow AI to take over the role of learning. And what I mean by that is, again, we were talking about that a little bit beforehand, that there are tools that can generate an essay for English class, and then there's tools that can check to see if it was generated. And then there's a tool that can humanize your ChatGPT text to make it look so it's this cat and mouse game being played back and forth. But thinking about ideas like looking at some of the audience, having kids write 5 paragraphs in class, can't use ChatGPT to get around that, and thinking about ways we can have our teaching approaches make sure that we are testing the students on what they know and what they learn, whether that's using ChatGPT in a controlled manner or whether it's the actual subject matter we have. And I'm more concerned about that and the role of it, frankly, regarding cheating nowadays than I am, potentially longer down the line. So that's just, and I think that you mentioned the staff training is spot on with where I think we need to go to make sure that we are keeping within those guardrails of what it can and can't do well.
Last chance. Come on. I can hear you. It's fine.
Okay, good. I'm teach English at the high school this year, 10th grade and 12th grade. So I get to kind of see firsthand kids using this wonderful AI tool, some well, some poorly. But yes, one of the things that we do is we do a lot of on-demand essays, meaning they have to write it in class. Read an article and then write me an essay, which is good. It helps me understand if they know the skill, etc. But it also kind of is a little bit more difficult as far as like the editing process and like reading over your work and really making sure it's your own. But it's difficult with AI as it is right now for kids to even see the value in editing their own work. It's easier to write something and then stick it in something. You're like, hey, make this better for me. Yay! And then it turns in, or they humanize it like you were talking about. They'll, it's a challenge in the classroom. I do think it's important that we look at new technology and embrace it and like do the best we can to integrate it well. But what I'm most concerned with is it replacing thinking. I want these kids to think for themselves. I want them to learn how to have a thought and how to express it themselves, not piecemeal a sentence into something and have it spit out something new. I want them to be able to come up with the thoughts themselves. So personally, I'm still working on how to integrate it well and how to help the kids use the tool well. I understand that it is a powerful tool, but I don't know if the maturity level is there. Especially like 13, like, I like having some ages in there is really good. So because like we can't replace the thinking, like they need to learn how to think. And that's what we do as educators, what we are doing as teachers is trying to get them to think for themselves. And then hopefully get them to a point where they can use AI ethically, not to just get an assignment done, but to like build onto something. And so that's where the sticking point is for me, is figuring out where is that point of they've done the thinking themselves, they've expressed themselves, then maybe we can look at something to build on that. But we need that thinking on their own. And I think integrating AI too early is going to replace that skill of thinking for themselves. I don't exactly know where that age is. I think it's a little bit different for every kid and their development. But it's something to be aware of as far as integrating things for the sake of integrating them. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, this is my daughter.
Oh.
Liz. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm Elizabeth. I'm a 13-year-old at Generative, and I just wanted to like mention that like it's really good to like try and like integrate the AI, but like since like it's like my age is going to be like affected by it, I know that like there are people in my grade, there are always going to be people who are going to get around everything that we put in their way, and it's like I don't know, like it might be 13 might be a little too young to like try and test their like ethical like grasp on things. So like I feel like it might not be a good idea, like to be too young.
Good. Thank you. And just to relay a story to your comment, I was talking to the middle school assistant principal who said, "Hey, what should I talk to my teachers about technology wise?" And at first I responded and said, "Hey, think about assignments that teachers can give where the students can't use AI." And then a couple of days later, I said, let me ask AI what it thinks. So I asked AI, give me an assignment with rubrics and all this kind of stuff where students can't cheat, can't use AI to cheat. And it gave me 10 very good examples of create a diorama, have a debate, stuff like that, where they can't use AI to more people-centric assignments. So one of the, writing an essay is tough, but it's also, and this is kind of where I feel like, personally, I feel teachers should be using the tool to the best to teach better, because it's a very good brainstorming engine to say, give me an examples and what do you think of this kind of thing? Anybody online? No hands up?
We have 6 people.
Anyone? If
Anybody
you'd like
online
to-
would like to contribute, feel free. No.
Okay. Anyone else? Last chance in the room? That's it then. Thank you very much for coming, and feel free to use fill out the survey. And once again, I'll send it out afterwards and hopefully we'll get a bunch more responses. We'll have to see. Okay.